Okay, welcome to video number 2. We are going to talk about methods and objects and all sorts of things today. Okay, so as we left off last time, we had two dragon babies, Fergie and Bert. And if you click on the Edit Code button, it'll send you to the code editor. All right, what's interesting is when you do that in the object tree, there's a little object tree up here. Let me show you if I can figure out how to do it. You see, I don't know how well you can see this. I did a monkey instead of the Fergie and Bert. But right up here, really faintly, gives you a list of this ground, this camera, and this golden monkey. Okay? So that's going to be really useful. And what it also does is, it gives you a choice of these things. And you can click on any one of them to edit them if you want. So you remember from last time that every Alice world has a scene. In this case, it's green grass, and that scene is called this, and a camera, and the objects that you've added, just like we said last time. And for every object, they come with their own procedures, and these are called the methods panel, because look, methods are the actions that an object can perform. So for example, Fergie can move or say or think. And the first time that you create a program, you're going to have your object say something and I think turn. So these are the instructions, and you just drag them right on in. It's really easy. And every object has a set of methods that goes with them. Remember, an object is an instance of a class, and in that class you can have them, all these objects have similar motions. This will be a little bit more obvious when you're playing with it yourself. There's also some ancestry, and let's just talk about it really briefly. Remember that Fergie is a dragon baby, and a dragon baby is an example of a quadruped. So that shows you the ancestry. That becomes more important when you get more into programming with Java and stuff like that. But, you know, this is just to show you that it's here right now. Again, why do you care? Because when we start to create different classes, we're going to talk about inheritance the same way that you will have inherited some things from your parents. But that's down the road. We don't have to worry about that today. We're going to skip this slide then. And if you wish, you can be watching the Alice videos like I talked about last time. You may find them helpful. Okay, now we're going to talk about motion and rotation. So what's really cool is that an object, doesn't matter what it is, comes with what we call 6 degrees of orientation, because it can move in 6 directions. Those directions are up and down, right and left, and forward and backwards. Okay, so those are 6 different ways they can move, and we can obviously work with multiple ones in combination. And we say that it's located X, Y, and Z. Some of you might be familiar with X and Y. For math, the X and Y axis, the Z axis is just the 3rd dimension. So what we want to talk about is the difference between these 3 words: move, turn, and roll. And there's a video that you can watch along with it if you wish, or you can listen to me. So what's interesting is it's dependent on the object center, and that's determined by the programmer that created the object. It's the pivot point around which it moves and rotates. For those of you who have taken physics, you might have heard of the center of gravity or the center of mass. That is, if you were to fling it, it would rotate around its center of mass. And so the programmers have created it the same way. It's the pivot point around which it moves and rotates. Usually the center is where it's on the ground, and that's not correct in physics world, but it's correct in programming world. So like we said, we have 3 numbers to identify their location. You're not going to worry about that too much. If you want, I can show you how to play with it, but it's not a big deal. But what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about where it is based on its orientation. So its own sense of forward and up and etc. Think about it. If you stand, you know which way you think is forward. That's the way your face is facing. And up would be the direction of your top of your head. But what if you tilt it a little bit? Wouldn't those directions change a little bit? Well, that's true in programming as well. So you need to pay attention to that, because if you have something tilted and you say move forward, that actually might, for example, with this bird, go dive bombing into the ground, and that might not be what you intended. So you want to really be careful with how your objects are oriented. So there's 2 types of motion: translational, which means moving, and that's the word that we would use, and you could do all 6 directions. because, as you know, you can move left, right, up, down, forward, or backward. That's pretty straightforward. Where it gets a little tricky has to do with rolling and turning, which we'll get to in a second. So here's a really nice graphic that they made where the monkey is moving forward. This is where it was before, and after the move forward command, this is where it is now. And what's important is that the XYZ coordinate has changed, but its sense of up and forward has not changed. Just this set of numbers has changed. Okay, but if we're going to rotate it, then that's going to change its orientation without changing the X, Y, and Z. So the two types of rotation are turn and roll. When I say roll, think cartwheel. You'll see what I mean, but think cartwheel. And even if it's not a person, even if it's a door or something, imagine it doing a cartwheel, right? When you do a cartwheel, you usually go side to side. That's the idea. So let's take a look at those. The roll, you can kind of see how the monkey is doing a cartwheel to the right, yes? But its location, its XYZ, is the same because its center hasn't moved. So you can kind of think of its center as like right where my little arrow is. You guys might see it as a yellow circle. Okay? Its sense of up is now this way, so that's different. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Its sense of up is different. It's now this way as opposed to this way. So again, if you rolled him right a little bit and then he said go up, he'd go flying up that direction. So you want to pay attention to that. Turn is different. Turn is like if I said, you know, you're in a car, turn right. You would sort of pivot and your direction of up wouldn't change, right? And your position XYZ wouldn't change, but you'd be facing a different way. So turning changes how you face. Roll changes your direction of up. And turn forward, so I did this one, it's not great. Turn forward is the object has fallen forward. So as its result, it's, oh, that's a typo, sorry. Its sense of up has changed, right? Here's its direction of up. The object's position has not changed. So play with that a little bit. If you want to watch these videos for help, you can do that. But my advice to you is go ahead and play, and we'll talk about that in class. Okay, that's it. Hope you had fun.